So this is a Tillig HOm, so meter gauge BR99 steam locomotive. Just fitting with the Lenz Next18 decoder. I thought I'd film it because Tillig's instructions are vague, shall we say, about opening them. So there's a few things to note. The cab does just unclip. On the other side, turn around, there is a little coal bunker piece which just plugs into the sides there, so that has to come off before you take off the side tanks, and the side tanks have two screw holes on either side, so they're quite prominent with a flat-headed screw. The one thing I did run into and I didn't realise was that the factory had glued the bottom of the lamp holders to the chassis, which was a bit unfortunate. So particularly as there's obviously no instructions, so we've got those back into place, but watch out for them, they are liable to drop out. So the Next18 socket is quite clever. Just that's the blanking plug from inside the loco. Got the Lenz 10318 Next18 decoder. It just lines up and will click in to place. I like to check every decoder on the programming track, so I've just done that, and now I've got it on my bit of main track here. The customer very kindly supplied a bit of track for me to test it with, because I don't normally have that much meter gauge track around. And this is just on the decoder's factory settings on address 3. It runs beautifully. So it's a very nice mechanism in the Tillig loco, and the Lenz decoder copes with it beautifully as well. I'll get the body back on now. So the cab unit does clip on the back, and actually it has contacts for the third lamp as well. So they just click in, and that little coal bunker has clicked onto the side of the boiler. So it's all back together. All done with the directional lighting all set up. So relatively straightforward, just needed a few clarification on the instructions. So the next loco is a Hartsbarn 210-2, also from Tillig. Their instructions are much better. There are a few things to look out for. So the first thing you do is pull out very carefully the smoke box door. On the bottom of that is this little strip that goes through and locks in the boiler barrel. So it's very stiff, so be very careful, and you don't want to snap it. Then you can ease off the cab. The cab is just clipped around like a Roco loco, and that will then release the boiler barrel, which will then pop out. Once you've done that, there is this little cover here that forms the base of the cab and the top of the oil tank, and that covers the decoder socket, which is again another Next18. This time I'm going to need two hands. I think it's just the position of it is a little bit more awkward than the BR99. So out comes the blanking plug. In there is the Next18 socket, and I'll just... One thing that threw me is that there is this loose red wire. I think they've used a standard 3-pin plug and they only needed 2 of it, so that the red wire is just surplus to requirements. So we'll get it all buttoned back up and get it running. So it's all back together. The circuit board that holds the top lamp just squeezes back into the smoke box door unit as you push it in. Just make sure it realigns okay. Put a tiny bit of oil onto that spigot that goes into the boiler, so hopefully it will be easier to get out next time, but it is kind of fragile. I'm a little bit worried about that one if it ever needs to be taken apart again. The rest of it actually was quite nice, and it just clips together quite nicely. Got the tail lights there. Decoder is just on factory settings. Haven't done any sort of tuning on the acceleration and deceleration. I'll leave that to the final user for that. It should crawl quite sweetly. So there we are. That's two Tillig locos fitted up with the Lenz Next18 decoders.